Hey, it's Lee, and this is episode 307 of the Orange Pill Investor. Gonna try to jump in and see if I can catch this little quick pump. It was actually up to 435 overnight, so I got all in my feelings and thought, oh, maybe it's gonna go 450. Always wanted to go to the moon, but it's retracing a little bit, and I thought, well, by the time I can get online, I had a doctor's appointment this morning, so by the time I can get online, if it's back down to 415 or back to 400, maybe I won't do anything. But let me just reload this live. What is going on here? I don't want my why am I signed out? That's dumb. View channel. Yes, please. I don't want. All right, let's try this again. Let's get X fired up. Let's see if I can connect to the chat here as well. I said reloading all of my chats from last time. I don't know if that's a feature or a bug. Does it just remember my chats from live to live? I don't know. All right, we'll come back to it if it's still there. Where was I? I did get assigned some shares over the weekend as well in the 5K account, so I'll have to deal with that as well. But let me just jump on here. So we got the 425 price. IV rank is just under 50. Like anything over 50 is, in general, for most stocks, that's prime, like option selling material. But we're still kind of contracting from an MSTR's IV rank was like pegged over 100. And I've got 7 covered calls here at the 700 strike. And it looks like, wait, is that part of a, yeah. So look, I got a little confused. It looks like I have 2 covered calls here, but this is actually part of a call debit spread. So I can ignore this one, these 2 short calls. Let me see if I can make this one little bit bigger. Yeah, there we go. And then I've got one that's a little bit farther out. Oh God, this is brutal. I hate the web-based browser so much. So I've got 8 total. I've got these 7 that are 32 days to expiration. Maybe hold on to those for another week or two. If I can buy them back for maybe 750 or less, I'll do that since my trade price was 15. And then same with this one. Sold this one for 16. If I can buy it back for 8 or less, I will try to do that. And if the premiums are still good, then I'll roll it out to 45 days to expiration again. Yeah. Okay. Let's trade. I'm going to go out to January 31st now. That's 46 days to expiration, so that's as close as I can get to 45. You can only get exactly 45 on Tuesdays. Today's not Tuesday, so I do the best I can. I am tempted. Well, actually, you know what? Let me check the weeklies first. I was tempted to do a weekly. If I sell kind of just like an at the money covered call, like maybe even I just go up to 430. That's about, at the 427.50, that's basically, it's like 4% returns for the week. if I'm holding 42,000 in collateral and I'm getting paid 17, the mid price is going to be somewhere in between this. But that's basically 4% returns for the week. If I get 4% for the week, that's 200% for the year, and that's pretty sick. And some people will say, well, why would you limit your upside at all? Well, because these these options premiums that can be gotten here are pretty ridiculous. But then some people would say, well, why wouldn't everyone just sell covered calls? And the reason I think is because I think that just buy and hold will probably be more than a 200% return over the next year. But if you can maybe get a little bit of skill in there, but a little luck involved, you might be able to capture both. So, do I want to... God, I gotta make this a little smaller, even a little bit. All right, do I want to sell at the money for a 4% return? Or go out to 45 days to expiration and you get a little bit of diminishing returns if you try to sell at the money. All right, this is 6 weeks worth. So if I was going to collect $1,600 a week for 6 weeks, that would be like $9,600. And you can only get $6,600 at the money. So there are diminishing returns. Every week that you go beyond one will have a diminishing return, as you can see reflected in this price. However, the out of the money options have a different theta decay curve. So if I wanted to actually build some call away value in here, holy shit, the January 31st only go to 600. So I can only even, the max upside I can build into this is 50%, which is not terrible by any means. But the way that I generally work these is I assume that I will try to manage it in 2 weeks, and my goal is to buy it back for half price. So this works out to about the same weekly profit. Excuse me, the same weekly profit as if when I target 1% a week. But definitely this is not going to come anywhere close to the $1,600 a week that I could collect at the money. But there's potential for 50% upside here instead of just selling at the money. So everything is trade-offs. There's no perfect option. And so if in 2 weeks I can sell this for, basically, I'm going to say close to 3,200, just so I can make the math similar to the weekly, and buy it back for half price, then that's 1,600 in profit over 2 weeks, which is 800 a week, which is only about half the profits of selling at the money weekly. It's only about half the income, but it allows for 50% upside. So everybody has to kind of decide for themselves what they want to do. And you know what? Maybe I'll just get one of each. I'll probably forget that I had done it, but if I can remember, then I can kind of see if I can compare the two and which one I'm able to close or manage sooner, or if I get wrecked. So let's go ahead and sell. Of course, I don't get the insta-fill that I'm hoping for, so I'll have to walk this down a little bit. Oh, no, it failed. Okay. Sweet. Now I have a 46 days to expiration covered call. And let's go ahead and get the weekly as well. I'm definitely tempting fate because if MicroStrategy goes up 50% uh, by Friday, like it has done in the past occasionally, then I'll get wrecked here. But let's just do just above at the money. So I'm going to go up like one strike to the 430. And I'm collecting half, excuse me, collecting double what I collected on the one that's a month away. But there's no upside built into this one. There's 50% upside built into this one. So it just amounts to the risk tolerance that you're willing to take, how much money you want to collect immediately. Like if I had to pay the mortgage and I needed $3,200, maybe I sell this one. Or if I know I want to, I've got long calls, maybe I've got some, maybe I bought the 300s way back in the day and now they're in the money and I've got 10 of them and I know I'm going to have to exercise a certain number of them. Excuse me, I want to exercise a certain number of them, but I'm going to have to sell some to pay for them. If I have 10, maybe I sell 3 at the money covered calls because the alternative would just be selling them today for whatever they're worth. But I could sell 3 of them, get paid $4,800. That puts a little bit of money in my pocket and helps me pay to exercise them. So lots of different ways to do this and a lot of different reasons why someone may want to or may not want to do this. If I don't have to make a decision on any of my shares, because those have no expiration dates, then maybe I don't sell any covered calls and I wait for the price to go to 600 a share before I decide to dip my toe in there. And IV rank is 70, 80, 90, or pegged over 100. Maybe that makes the most sense. But for the purposes of demonstration and just to capture a little, this is only like what, a 5% move. So I'm not doing anything too crazy. I've got like 4,000 delta to play with. So I could sell 40 covered calls on these positions. Oh yeah, it even says it right here. Yeah, I could be selling another 40 covered calls if I wanted to here. So I had 8. Picking up 2 more only puts me at like 25% of the maximum number of covered calls I could sell against all of my positions. So I think this is not a bad place to be. 75% long, 25% short gives me room to add more positions if we have a huge rally, but also gives me a little bit of downside protection if we just get chopped over the next 1 to 4 weeks, whatever. All right, so took some profits, and now I've got some cash, and I hate cash. I just sold and paid my bills, so I can actually reinvest this. So let's see what longer dated calls I can get for $5,000. So let's hit the trade. Well, let me see what I have already. So I've got the 20 Aprils remaining. I'll leave that where it is. And I ended up with 10 June. And those are already. Wait, why do I have the 800s? No, sorry. This is a call debit spread. I could pick up a few more of those. I'm not sure what I can even get for 5 grand these days at today's prices. I could always buy a few more shares since I don't know what's going to happen with MicroStrategy. Um, all right, let's see where I can go. I don't like buying calls under 180. So let's go to June. What's the cheapest I can get? Actually, that's perfect. It's going to cost me 5 grand, and I've got almost 5 grand. So let's buy it. And then if I have to peel off a couple share, like one share to pay for the difference, I can do that. Kind of annoyed with myself for adding even more positions because this is just more to keep up with. But that puts me using $459 of margin. So I'm going to sell one measly share and see what that does. Okay, $34 a margin is not even using margin, really. So I'm going to ignore that. See what I got. All right, I had to peel off one share plus the premiums that I collected to add some more long leverage. Does this mean that I'm making a price prediction that MicroStrategy will be over 1080 by June? No, that's not what I'm saying. If I were going to hold this until June 20th, that would be what I'm saying. But I have very little intentions of holding this June option until expiration unless it's like 1200 by January, right? If it's already deep in the money by January, I'll probably start selling covered calls against it, and maybe I hold it till June. But even then, I probably wouldn't. And it's for this reason. There's a statistic that talks about how many long options actually expire worthless, and it's generally considered to be quite a lot. I researched it and I found a little bit of an argument discrepancy depending on which exchange people were studying. One claimed that that's a little bit of a myth and that they reverse engineered the options expiring statistic from the 10% statistic of options that are actually exercised. So one study said that only about 10% of options are exercised, and then they reverse engineered that and they said, oh, well, if only 10% are exercised, then that means the other 90% must have expired worthless. But that's not necessarily the case because there are plenty of people that are taking profits early and selling to close. So let me just take a look at Options Profit Calculator. This is an excellent tool for options traders. You can plug values into lots of different strategies. And it's helpful to predict where an options price will be at various strikes, underlying prices over time. So I just bought the 1080s, right? For 5 grand-ish. And so, yeah, I mean, if I just totally hit the lottery and it's $1,000 a share next week, then holy shamoly, I just made 30 grand, right? But if I do nothing and I'm like, wow, if it went to 1,000, then it can go to 2,000 or 3,000 or 5,000, right? If I win and I do nothing, the value starts to get lower and lower and lower because of theta decay. And if I hold $1,000 winner all the way to expiration, I lose all my money. I lose 100% of it because it expired below my strike. But you don't even have to just get to your strike. You have to get to your strike plus what I paid. So I have from the 1080, I actually got to get to 1130. So even this 1128, this is a big winner. It's a big winner all the way through, March, April, May. and then, shit, I held it and turned into a loser. So I am not saying that I am making a prediction that MicroStrategy will be over 1130 by June 20th. What I'm looking at is if it moves up at all over the next 3 months, because I would be rolling this in like a March. So as long as it's 650 in March, I'm green and I can take profits. Granted, at 650, it's only a 50% return, but like it's kind of wild that in options trading, I can even say the words only 50% return in 90 days with a straight fucking face. It's kind of ridiculous. Now, granted, it could be an absolute loser. If we trade sideways between now and March, this is an absolute dog, and I've lost half of my money. So this is not just printing money. It's leverage, so you can win a lot more, but it's leverage, so you can lose a lot more. But anyway, the where I was kind of going with this is you can never have an option expire worthless on you if you never hold it to expiration. Now, you might have to sell it at a loss, but it will never expire worthless. You'll never have to fall into that statistic if you never hold an option to expiration. And as a native option seller, I'm targeting under 45 days to expiration. I mean, I just sold one. I sold a 7 DTE and I sold a 46 DTE. So that's prime selling territory for me. So I am not looking December, January, February. I'm not looking to buy into anything earlier than March. And really, I'm looking to probably get out of my March expirations in the next month. My Aprils, I will be looking to roll in January. I don't like theta accelerating when I'm an option buyer. I love theta accelerating when I'm an option seller. All right, so that kind of explains my overall outlook. When I'm bullish on something, I either want long exposure via shares, or if I'm even more bullish, I want long exposure to long calls. Selling covered calls is it's still a bullish strategy. It's just limited upside bullish, right? So even when I add these short positions, I'm not saying that I'm all of a sudden bearish. I'm just willing to cap my upside to take some profits and go buy groceries with it. That's what I'm doing. Since this is my only source of income, and the grocery store does not take credit from my trading platform, right? They're not just going to like bill Tasty Trade for the groceries. Until that product is available, then maybe I can just buy groceries on margin. I don't know. Still probably wouldn't do that. All right, so those are the only two trades I wanted to make in that account. I doubt I'm going to do anything in my IRA, but let me just check it out. Just got over the 300 shares. That's cool. For a second there, I panicked. I thought I had 5 covered calls, but no, I have the 5 call debit spreads. These could end up being winners depending on what happens by January. I'm willing to let these ride. I've got this lonely January 1080 that I've already lost like 90% of the value in this one. So it's really not going to hurt my feelings if I hold this to expiration and I lose the other 400 bucks. You know, I already screwed the pooch on this one probably. I could just close it, lick my wounds, and recoup the last 400 bucks, but I think I'm going to let this one die a noble death. Here's my true covered calls. So I've got these that I've had open for a week. Nothing I really need to do here, especially since they're actually worth more than I paid for them. I prefer not to pay to roll them. Grabbed another June 1080. What was that, 3 days ago? The two covered calls are actually using these in the money leaps as collateral. So I could sell 3 more covered calls against, make that a little bigger. I could sell 3 more covered calls against shares if I want to, but I'm going to wait for a nice juicy move before I get too crazy with adding more positions. And then I've got 4 more December leaps. Total delta on these is 255, so I could technically sell 2 more covered calls against these, since 100 delta is approximately 100 shares. Or the delta is going to fluctuate, so it's going to approximate the same price action as, 255 shares. Yeah. I don't feel the need to get crazy and trade the IRA on just a 5% move. Same thing in the joint account. I've got 80 shares. Can't sell a covered call against that, but I'm selling a covered call against this 74 Delta 380. Yeah, I'm not inclined to do anything rash in that account. And then my discretionary account, my allowance. So this is like textbook case. I mean, this is kind of lucky, really, the fact that I'm actually literally looking at this. So I said when I sell these at 45 days to expiration, my goal is to manage it every 14 days, right? 2 to 3 weeks. 2 weeks is best case scenario. 3 weeks is hopefully worst case. And I sold it for 17, and I want to buy it back for half of that, which I can actually do today. So I can't remember if this is a margin or a cash account. Let's see if this will just let me close this position. Looks like it's going to let me. Didn't go through. It didn't fill, but let's walk this up a little bit. Let me pay another 5 cents. Okay. Got a nice little fill. All right, now I'm using $500 of margin, which I don't like. I've decided to de-risk and get rid of all of my margin use. So I've still got this 76 delta in the money leaps. And this type of option's sole purpose is to sell covered calls against, in my opinion, in my trading style. This June 1080 is pure speculation. I can't do anything with it. It's only worth 30 delta. I can't sell covered calls against it. So this one just sits there looking pretty. It either prints money and I sell it for profit, or sometime in March, I make a decision whether to roll it out to, let's see, June, July, August, September. In March, do I roll it out to September? I can make that decision. Or if it goes in the money at some point, if I get super, super crazy lucky and it goes in the money, then maybe I'll treat it like this in the money option and I'll start selling covered calls against it. And then if it breaches my strikes and goes even above that covered call strike, then maybe I take that as my exit signal. It's time to take profits, right? If this goes in the money and the price is $1,200 a share, and I sell a frickin' 14 or 1500 strike, 45 DTE call, and then the price goes up from 1200 to 1500, okay, maybe that's my signal that I'm ready to exit both of those positions. So since this 350's sole purpose in life is to sell covered calls against, in my world, I got to go and sell another one. Let's go to 46 days to expiration. And let's go. So I'm stuck with this. I'm stuck with this decision again. So what I really was going to do was find like a 750 strike for hopefully 1600 again. And then, as we trade sideways, I would just be, buying it back for 800, selling it for 1600. 2 weeks later, buy it for 800, sell it for 1600. However, they're not going to let me do that this time. Just like on the other option, the highest strike I could get was the 600. So I can only build almost 50% profit into this one. But what are you going to do? So let's go ahead and do that. That gives me 2,500 to play with. Now my 1080 is $5,000. So the 2,500 is only going to pay for half of that. But I can buy that, and then I can peel off a few shares to make up the difference. So let me just do that. I'm going to add another June position. Buy call. Okay. It wants me to sell. Yeah, maybe this. I thought I had a negative balance. I don't know. This might be a cash account. We'll see. All right. So to come up with $2,500, I need to sell 6 of these. Probably 7 to be safe. All right. Okay. I've only got 12 shares left, but I've got 5,500 to play with now. And why am I stuck on this screen? Where's my reset trade button? Nope. Where's my clear trade button? That's what I really freaking needed. All right, now they're pissing me off. All right. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, clear trade. Okay, I guess I only have a clear trade button on the options chain. God damn, that's annoying. All right. Do I have 5,500? I just barely do. So let's not try to overpay for it too much if I don't have to. Of course, I didn't get a fill. So let's walk this up a little bit. There we go. Cool. $84 in cash. Can't do shit with that. This is exactly where I want it. Now, notifications on Robinhood. You can see here. I might have to view all. Where the hell is my assignment? Okay. I had notifications on my phone. Apparently the web version. There we go. You bought 400 shares of CLSK because I sold the 15 strike puts and now CLSK's price is in the toilet. I sold a Riot put. Nope. Thought I sold a Riot put too. Looks like actually 100 shares of my Riot actually got called away. Okay, so I had that backwards. Point is, I need to check my number of shares versus number of covered calls to make sure that I'm collecting premiums. I got 700 shares of each stock now, kind of like that. Covered calls against CLSK. 1, 2, 3. I only have 3. So I got to sell 4 more, which makes sense because I got to sign 400 shares. And then Riot, I have 5, 6. So I got to sell 1 more Riot. 4 CLSK, 1 Riot. So CLSK, sell options. New option sellers may want to look at your cost basis and make sure that you're selling above your cost basis. I kind of just don't care anymore. I let it work itself out. If my cost basis is 14 and I sell under 14, does that put me at risk? Yes. Like here. So if I select a strike under 1370, could I potentially sell these at a loss? Yeah. But that's not the mistake. To me, the mistake was selling the puts at 15 before it went down. But there's no way that I can know that that's going to happen. So I just try to have amnesia. But for people who are a little bit squeamish, they don't want to sell below cost basis because it's losing money or feels like making a losing trade. You know, it's perfectly fine to check your cost basis, and you should absolutely track your P&L in a spreadsheet or something, and make sure that you're making good decisions. And if you're not, then kind of operating a little trade journal will help you improve that decision-making process. But in general, at this point, I just kind of don't care, especially with these mining stocks. Like, it's not MicroStrategy. I don't give a shit if these shares get called away. I'm pretty agnostic about what I trade. I don't trade CLSK and Riot because I have some fundamental belief in their business model. They're a Bitcoin derivative, so I'm willing to trade them at all. And their options trade in pennies, and their bid-ask spreads are very tight. So it's easy for me to get in and out of these trades. That's all I'm actually checking here. I don't know. I added like an iron one last week. I know some people that I respect own some iron, so maybe they're going to be the best mining stock over the next year. I don't fucking know. I have nothing bad to say about iron other than their options trade in nickels, and it pisses me off. So I was happy to just, dip my toe in iron on one little contract. But I prefer to trade options, especially with these cheap ones. You know what I mean? Like MicroStrategy is 400 a share. The bid ask spread can be 50 cents wide, $1 wide. It kind of just doesn't matter. But when I'm trading $10 stocks, the bid ask spread is very important. So I like to cook in 10% callaway value at $13 a share. That would be $1.30. So if I add $1.30 to 13, that puts me at $14.30. So I can either sell the 14, the 1450. I can slide it up a little bit if I think, oh yeah, CLSK will rebound. I can sell the 15. Or I could just bag hold and wait for it to go to 15 and then sell covered calls again. I generally don't do that. I'm doing it in MicroStrategy because I'm just waiting for those face melting rallies before I YOLO in. But with these mining stocks, this is just a tool to collect premium. This is not me having a bullish thesis or reading the 10Ks on the. I'm not doing any research on these things. So let's just go to the 1450. That's almost 2% returns for the week, assuming 1,300 in collateral. So I kind of like that. That puts $1.50 worth of callaway value in, so that's over 10%. And I've got 4 of them. So let's see if I can get fills at 25. I'm kind of thinking no. Be happy if they do, but I probably will have to replace this and just smash the bid. Yeah, let's do that. Got shit to do. When I first started out and I had 20 grand was my entire portfolio, trying to just absolutely squeeze every last penny and dollar and dime out of these trades absolutely makes sense. That's why I got started on Robinhood. In a sense, I'll never forgive them for turning off the buy button for GameStop back in the day. I thought that was pretty fucked up. Robinhood is supposed to be steal from the rich, give to the poor, but they were clearly not serving the poor in that case. But I also owe a debt to them for offering free trading, in a small account where, what did I get paid? $25 for each contract. If you're paying, what was it? E-Trade back in the day was like $7.95 trades or something like that. But I mean, shit, if you're paying $10 for a trade and you're only making $25, that's 2/5. That's like 40% of your fucking profits. So Robinhood helped me out quite a bit when I was first starting out. And I have a little bit of a dilemma between loving and hating them at the same time. So anyway, Tasty Trade's getting most of my money. That's where I put most of my, my main account. But I still like demoing in Robinhood since that's a lot of times people's first exposure to trading. So hold on a second. Let's see what the old lady's chirping at me about. All right, where was I? All right, I sold the 4 covered calls, so that's cool. Riot. I'll sell 1. $10% is adding $1.40, so that gets me to $15.50, which again is almost 2% for the week. That should fill. Cha-ching. So now I am good to go. Let's check my buying power. I'm probably using, it says low risk margin. I'm probably using less than $1,000 worth of margin in this account. So that is fine. I've got my April 450. I think I'm selling the covered call against this one. Yeah. I'm selling the 650 against it. I got paid 16 and it's worth about 16. Yeah, so that's right where it needs to be. Nothing else for me to do here. So let's finally check chats and then try to get caught up. Anthony C says, using the risk formula, it's telling me that it's safe to sell a 380 expiring on 110.25. Okay. And buying a 145 expiring 126, but 380 is in the money. How is that safe? All right. The reason is because you are forming a poor man's covered call, and I don't know which platform you're using, but you can use options profit calculator, right? We can do it in there, but I'm just going to use Robinhood real quick. So you're buying the 145 January 26. That is deep as shit in the money. Which that's why you're able to use it as your collateral. Wait, which one was it? You're buying the 145 strike. Yeah. So that is like so deep in the money. This is practically, I bet you the, I'm just going to guess. I'm going to guess the delta on this is 0.98. 0.94. Okay. So basically what this means is, let me make this bigger. When the price of MicroStrategy moves $1, the price of this option is going to move up 94.55 cents. So it's basically a synthetic stock at this point. And so if I buy one, let me make this a little smaller again. If I buy one, now I've got this little graph here. I need to get to my break-even price of $453 in order to break even. And then you were selling the January, let me get back to it. Selling, a 380. Okay, so that's it's possible, but it's still not necessary. I've never sold in the money covered call. But 110.25, 380. Yeah, this is not really how it works. But we can still demonstrate how it's somewhat safe. 380. See how gradual this slope is? Like MicroStrategy's price by January would have to get to probably $2,000 a share before you could lose money. So it's safe in air quotes. Like there's nothing that's completely safe in the stock market, but your upside is definitely protected. The formula that I found on Blue Collar Investing's channel is a safe poor man's covered call. You subtract the short strike. You subtract the long strike from the short strike. Add the premium collected, and that should be more than the value of the long strike. So in this case, you got 380 minus 145. That gets you 235. 235 plus the 73 gets you to 305, 308. It's exactly, you're basically selling the absolute lowest strike you can possibly sell and still be covered by this collateral. So this long option, this long call, is serving as your collateral instead of 100 shares. And it's perfectly reasonable to do this. But I never sell in the money calls. That's kind of weird. I mean, if you thought MicroStrategy, like for some reason you just had the premonition that MicroStrategy was going to go down to 350 by next week, I suppose you would be the best trader in the history of the world if you could do that. But yeah, the point of selling a covered call is to sell it out of the money and collect the extrinsic value. If you're selling an in the money covered call, there's intrinsic and extrinsic value in there. And selling intrinsic value kind of doesn't make any sense. So while you can do it, it's technically covered. It doesn't really make any sense to sell below the current price. And you could put that into options profit calculator as well. You could go to covered call here, plug in the shares, 100 shares of whatever stock you're trading, and then you can put in the 380 strike or whatever, and it'll show you a graph like this, like potential prices, and you just don't want to see a lot of red on there, right? You don't want to see red at like $600 a share. Anything that's remotely possible, you don't want to see red at that point. All right, let's see what else we got. Dr. Z, what's up? Does this calculator account for how IV will change over time? I don't think so. I think options profit calculator is just kind of assuming implied vol will stay the same. That's my guess. Because if the options prices kind of just blow up, I think these prices will be much more exaggerated. So it's just a predictive element. It gives you a good estimate for what you can expect. But I do suspect, and I don't know, but I think that if implied vol was pegged at like 100, they would be even more profitable. Swoldemort says, if the IV even goes back to average, those Junes go up 20%. And then says, I'm milking these covered calls and credit spreads until ATM is under 3 billion. Okay. IV tanking, making it much less appealing though. Yeah. And that's why I didn't just add a ton of them. 47 IV rank is still pretty decent, but for MicroStrategy, yeah, it's not amazing. Dr. Z says, if you're holding, let's say pure hypothetically an April 2025 call, strike 420, which is currently up about 10%, how would you approach an exit strategy? I'm not sure it's deep in the money enough to start selling covered calls against now, but for me, let's see, it's April, so 90 days would be January. Yeah. So the Aprils that I have, I will either be taking some profits in January because they're going to go under 90 days to expiration. So I can either take profits by just exiting those positions for some profit, hopefully. Or if I think there's a lot more room to run for the stock, then I could roll them out to May, June, July for whatever strike I can afford. If I have multiples, I like to take profits in some and then let the others run sometimes. But I generally like to double. I like to double up my money before I start taking profits. Like if I have 10 and I can double my money, I'll sell 5. And now the worst thing I can do is break even if the price does shit the bed on me. But yeah, so in January, I'm looking to either just exit them completely for profits or roll them out to over 180 days if I want to if I still want to remain long, or I could start selling covered calls against those positions if the delta's generally above 0.7. And then if I sold, if I sell a 30% out of the money covered call and it goes up 40%, then I just exit those, that's kind of like my exit signal. And then Dr. Z says, I have a hard time selling anything greater than 7 DTE because I'm always like, oh, well, I don't want to have to wait that long to get all my premium. This feels like a naive perspective. No, it's absolutely fine. I think anything under 45 days to expiration is great. But some people, unless you have a really good reason to do it, I just don't sell them out to 90 days, 120 days, 6 months. I know some people will sell them out like a year out, but there's diminishing returns on those. And like you said, you have to wait so long to cash in. Now, one guy I know, he's like, I'm doing it because he had to pay off his mortgage by a certain date for whatever reason. I don't know if he had an arm or he just had to, for whatever reason, he had a deadline and needed 100 grand. Let's just make up bullshit numbers. So, selling out a year long, if that accomplishes some kind of goal of yours, great. But I think those are suboptimal. I never sell anything over 45 days, approximately. If I have to go to 49, it's fine. I've even gone up to 60, but I really hate to go above 60. Swoldemort says, Big Vega on that June 1080. Good chance you see a pump on the 1080s when the ATM is done and volatility pops again. Yeah. I figure there's got to be a point, even if I don't get to 1080 by March, like I probably only need it to get to 750 by March and they're in profit, right? So at some point, there's going to be an opportunity to exit that if I want to. Like when implied volatility is the IV rank on Tasty Trade is pegged at 100 again. That's probably the perfect opportunity. Iran has a nice floor because their power agreements are accretive. Okay, did not know that. They could get out of mining and just rent their infrastructure. No shit. Wade says on Schwab options free, it's 65 cents per contract. That doesn't sound like it's free. But yeah, I think I pay $1 a contract with Tasty Trade. And if you do a lot of 20, I think you get it for half price. So, but I learned a lot from Tasty Trade's videos over the years. So me paying them to trade is kind of like leaving a tip with the waitress for me at this point. Dr. Z says you can negotiate with Schwab to reduce options commissions fee. I got mine down to 50 cents per contract. That's fucking awesome. And that is good to know. The Bitcoin community has got to be the most intelligent, well-informed community in the history of the fucking world. Angry Buddha says a feature. Yeah, feature, not a bug. What the hell was I even talking about when I said that? Yeah. I'm coming back to these comments so far in the future that I remember what the hell I was talking about. Oh shit, audio is super low. No kidding. Okay. I had cranked up my whatever. I can't remember if it's the gain or whatnot on my mic, and it's literally spitting distance away. So that's a bummer. I'll take a look. If anybody else is having problems with the audio, let me know. K4 says morning, good morning back. You too, Junkrat. And Russ says I wrote 560s, 580s, 600, 650 weekly covered calls last Friday. Closed for average 50% profit this morning. Outstanding. And then Digga, whatever, says that was loud. I wonder if that was the fill volume. So I wonder if we have some people, it's the audio's too low, and now somebody, and then the fill ding, the fill bell was too loud. All right. So wait, name can't be blank. Said audio super low, but now it's too loud. Oh, my desktop audio is too loud. So my mic is too low and the audio is too fucking loud. Well, all my trading's done now, so it's not going to do me any good to lower it. Oh yeah, so you got your eardrums blown out. Have to max my volume to hear, but then the desktop audio comes in booming. Yeah, I blew my eardrums out last week with that one too. I got to remember that. Yeah, also stream quality is poor, so can't read numbers. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna check with Restream. I'm using Riverside right now, and they only record live. I don't know. They're probably struggling to even get 720, but the recordings are 1080. So when I re-upload, it's clear, but in live it looks like shit. Yeah. And that's why I've been trying to trade with the and maybe it's not working, but I've been trying to learn to trade on the web-based so that I can actually zoom in and make the numbers bigger. But on this screen, it starts moving half of the fucking information off. So I end up having to make it smaller again just so that I can even trade without screwing something up. So I've got a couple of bigger monitors coming in maybe today. Yeah. So I'll be making some adjustments then. I actually dug up my old Dell monitor from like 15 years ago, but the only port it has on it is a VGA, so I couldn't even connect to my laptop. So yeah, I'm still struggling with my single laptop monitor, and hopefully some of those things will get better. But yeah, I do need to remember to turn the audio down. And that's exactly what you said. I think he forgets to dial up the voice track and dial down the desktop audio. Sounds about right. Oh, but I missed a bunch. Let's see. Unpolished stream. We are so early. Yeah, I barely know what the fuck I'm doing. I mean, I've made 300 videos this year, but when I first started, my AirPods mic was my audio, and this Logitech camera is probably, I don't know, it says it's 1080, but it's a couple of years old. Maybe I'll get a real camera. Rico says, Nithu, for whatever reason, the screen capture quality is poor, cannot read. Yeah, I think we talked about that. The live video quality sucks. I'll check out Restream. I think Jeff maybe had better displays with Restream over Riverside, so I'll check that out. Howard says, morning, enjoyed it, got a bounce. All right, appreciate you joining. K4 says, I've switched from Options Profit Calculator to optionstrat.com. No need to register. However, the free account gives you an option to save trades, useful for complicated spreads and other multi-leg strategies. Okay, cool. I'll check that out. Appreciate the info. Curtis, never sell covered call 45 DTE. Do you have the same rule for selling puts? Yeah, just to clarify, never sell over 45 DTE. Yes. The reason is because Tasty Trades research shows that for out of the money options, 45 days to expiration is optimal theta acceleration, and that lasts for about 2 to 3 weeks. So that's why I generally try to manage that trade within 2 to 3 weeks for about 50% of the profit. But in general, if I don't mind entering into a position, I don't even bother with the 45s. I definitely won't sell over 45, but I just prefer to sell at the money cash secured puts. I collect the most premium as possible, and as soon as the price dips, I own it, and then I can just turn around and sell covered calls against it. But yeah, if I was going to sell a 45-day cash secured put, I would go to what, 10, 20% out of the money or something maybe. Simple says, how can you stay so calm while you while you trade with options? It's, I mean, once you've been doing it long enough, you just see how it works. Especially running the wheel, you sell cash secured puts until you basically get wrecked on that one, and now you're forced to own the shares, and the shares are not worth what you paid for them, but it doesn't matter because you are reducing your cost basis every time you sell an option. And then you sell covered calls on that position, reducing your cost basis further. The mentality of an option seller is it's all about reducing cost basis. You're limiting your upside, but every time you limit your upside, you're increasing your chances for success. So that leads to the calmness as well. Like a lot of people that are trying to pick stocks, they're just no better than a coin flip. And so if you can increase your chance for being right, that just makes everything so much easier. Now, I'm not doing nearly as much of that with MicroStrategy because, and maybe wrongly, I'm so confident that I am right about the stock going up over the next year. Like I couldn't be more certain that Bitcoin's going up. There could be a black swan event, but if I wasn't that confident, then I would be selling covered calls in against every single share possibly could of MicroStrategy. But selling covered calls is actually safer than holding the shares and doing nothing. So that helps. Forrester says ribeyes and eggs today. Absolutely. I've gotten to where I might be practically like a butcher at this point. So I buy the ribeyes and I'll get the individually cut ones, but I usually hit up Costco. Unfortunately, they don't have the grass fed, but whatever. And I'll buy like the 5 or 6 pound ones and I'll cut it in half. And I'll cut the half in half. And I'll end up with like 1 to 1.5 pound, just 1.5 inch thick cut ribeyes. And I'll cut like 1 or 2 ounces of the ribeye off to have with 4 eggs in the morning. And then that really tender cap, I can't remember what it's called. If that's 5 or 6 ounces, then that'll be a lunch. And then the kind of like medallion that almost looks like a New York strip shape, that might be 6 to 8 ounces, or maybe even a little bit more sometimes. And that's probably ends up being like dinner or my last meal. Supposedly there's a thing where your body can only process like 20 or 30 grams of protein every 2 hours. But if you're exercising, that number does go up. But my last meal of the day, I want that muscle building activity to last for as many hours after my last meal as possible. And hopefully, maybe even like half the night. Because the way I understand it, your body's either building muscle or catabolizing it. So try not to waste away to nothing. Jay Booz says, God damn it. I bet options seem to be performing better than MicroStrategy at the moment due to our ATM. Could be a good swing when Sailor is hitting the ATM. That's possible. When you say I bet options, that's only because I bet price is going up more than MSTR. I don't know. When iBit's options came out, I took a look at them and they were wholly unimpressive. So I just stopped looking at them. Maybe for something, I did figure out that a poor man's covered call on iBit was actually not terrible. And yeah, they're just going to get the steady Bitcoin upside. They're not going to move as violently as MicroStrategy. So yeah, that might end up being a better covered call strategy. I'm not sure. Supple, you're welcome. David says, I have a number of iBit calls. They've been a great offset for some failed MicroStrategy longs. Okay. Glad those are working out for you. iBit tracks with Bitcoin when MSTR doesn't. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, I'm going to check YouTube one more time, and then we are freaking out of here. Anthony says, thank you. You're absolutely welcome. Swoldemore says, audio good on YouTube. All right. I've been trying to build up X and hoping YouTube goes out of business, hoping X like puts YouTube out of business. I'm still a little bit pissed about all that COVID misinformation that they were spreading and actually censoring the good information. So in a sense, YouTube as a company can go fuck themselves. But yeah, X got some catching up to do as far as video goes. I do enjoy watching my video. I don't watch my videos really. I watch them one time to get my timestamps, but I don't just sit around watching my own freaking videos. I don't like the smell of my own brand that much. But yeah, when I'm watching podcasts, I do prefer it on YouTube. Anthony says that's deep as shit in the money. Yeah, that's the technical term for it. I like to be as precise as I can with the language. Patrick said, these videos are great, inspiring me to get into options trading by watching Tasty Trade and all 300 OPI episodes. Damn right. Welcome to the club. And Nicholas says, curious what you think about SMLR lately. Well, I mean, I like them. I'm glad they're running the playbook, but I won't be thinking about them until they start offering options, which they don't still, right? SMLR. Nah, it's just still the buy button. Yeah. Once they get options, I will absolutely cover them. But until then, it's just I wish them well. I'm super bullish on them. Anybody who adopts Bitcoin as their treasury strategy is heads and shoulders above every other company available. So I love the company. I just trade options. So all right, let me just scan here. Thanks, David. And last one, Seppo, will we see the FASB changes soon? Some people are already talking about MicroStrategy on the 15th. No, they've announced that they are going to start with FASB after. Yeah, so when they talk about the 15th of December, I believe that's the fiscal year, maybe. That's what that starts. So they will report Q1, which is going to be okay. Q3 was October 30th, so November, December, January is going to be Q4. January/February is going to report Q4, and then February, March, April. So late April, early May, they will report their Q1. Is that right? Yeah, that's when they're going to report their Q1 earnings from the start of the year. So FASB is going to begin with 2025. They are not going to do any FASB for any 2024 earnings reporting. That's, yeah, Saylor had literally tweeted it. So that might just be a little bit of misunderstanding the dates. All right, Scott says June, yes. All right, cool. Appreciate that. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Yeah, I'm gonna check out Restream. Maybe the restreams will be more clear on X. I have no idea if that lack of clarity is coming from X or my system just can't handle it. Probably be in the market for a new laptop as well. And at some point, maybe I'll learn how to edit videos. Right now, I just export it and upload it, and that's about all you're gonna get. So if I get some free time on my hands, maybe I'll I'll start to give a damn. All right, cool. Be good, y'all.